Okay, so last time we talked about the scientific method and laws versus theories. So today we're actually going to move on to page 7. And for page 7, this is our table of contents, obviously, we're going to talk about variables. So variables will be on page 7, so I need you to write this into your table of contents. We haven't done anything on page 6 yet. We are going to do something there. We're going to do one of our labs there. So leave that blank for now until we do our lab. I might try and figure out how to have you guys do that at home, but for now, we're going to leave it. So page 7 is variables. So we're going to go with page 7. So this is page 1, and then we turn backside of page 1 is 2. This is page 3. Backside is 4. This one's 5, which is our scientific method notes. Backside of that is 6, and this is 7. So this is our new variables page. This is our notes for variables. So the top is going to, well, first let's lay it out. We've got to draw a line across. Ooh, that was a bad start. That's okay, finish good. And there's one there. Got one along the red line here. Remember, I'm just dividing out my page. Does not have to be perfect. And then we got one more line down here. So I have this section that's kind of highlighted. So at the top, we are talking about variables. Page 7. Over here, I write my name. So you guys would write your own name. I'm going to write Mr. Will. And it is going to be 9:24 when you guys are doing this. So there's that. You can draw a picture up here if you want. You don't have to. The essential question. How do I, what is the word I'm looking for? Let's say identify variables, because there's a lot of different kinds of variables. So how do I identify variables? So we're going to talk about that. So the first thing we need to do is write the definition of a variable. So remember, we start over here, variable, and then I underline it, and then I put my dash. Remember, my dash is my invisible line that I don't cross. It's my definition stays on this side, and this is my my vocab word. So the definition of a variable is any part of an experiment that can be changed. And I would like you to draw this picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw a smaller picture right here. So I'm taking up 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. So this is my meter stick. And this is my ball. It's dropping. And this is the floor. All right, so I know you guys can do that because it's literally some lines, a couple dashes, a ball, arrow, and then a label, floor. Okay, I could probably label this too. Ball. And this is meter. I know that's hard to read. I apologize. So, a variable. Any part of an experiment that can be changed. So in my experiment here, I am dropping a ball to see how far it bounces. Great. So that's an experiment, but what can I change? And this is where I would typically ask you guys what you would change. But there's lots of stuff we can change in here. We can actually change the kind of ball, maybe a bouncy ball or a golf ball or a tennis ball. So lots of different options, or like a bowling ball. That would affect how much it's going to bounce. Or the kind of floor. Maybe it's sand or jello or concrete. That's going to change a lot of different things. Another thing, maybe I'm dropping it in water instead of air. So this surrounding space is now a variable. It's something I can change. So I can change the floor. I can change the ball. This stuff. I can change whether I throw it down or if I just drop it. Or if I'm on the moon versus Earth. So gravity is now a variable. So there are so many different kinds of things that I can change here. So let's put, you know what, I'm just going to leave that. I think this will be a good enough example. So that's a variable. Any part of the experiment that you can change. We probably could have listed a bunch more even. All right, so the next thing, we're going to actually break down this variable into different parts because there are different kinds of things that I can change and how that might affect the experiment that I'm doing. So the first one is an independent variable. E. Okay, and my dash. So now my dash is way over here. So I could use the same imaginary line as this first one. It would still technically work. If you want, you can still use this one as an imaginary line, but that does make your definition a lot skinnier. This one's not huge, so this is probably okay, but whatever. So our definition for an independent variable, try to underline it. So this is the variable that you are changing, and I might actually add to that I was going to say maybe on purpose. I don't know. No, let's just stick with that. The variable that you are changing. I think that's important. You are changing. So it's the thing that you change on purpose. Okay. It's also known as the manipulated variable. That's kind of complicated. But in this example, or the one that we're actually going to do for the lab, is the kind of ball. Because if I drop a tennis ball versus a baseball, now I am changing those two things on purpose. Everything else stays the same, like the floor and the meter stick and the fact that we're on Earth. Those things are all the same. But the kind of ball is what I'm changing on purpose. So that's an independent variable. So let's go to the next one is a dependent variable. All right. And this is the result of the independent variable. It's also what you record. So, for example, up here, I have changed the ball, and let's say I go from a bowling ball to a golf ball. Well, my result is how high it goes. So the independent variable is the ball. So a tennis ball, golf ball, baseball, bowling ball, whatever. The dependent variable is how high it goes because that's what I'm measuring, right? It's what I'm measuring. I'm gonna write that. It's what you measure. Okay, so we have our independent, we have our dependent. Let's put our example. Height of the ball. No, the height the height the ball bounces back. Ugh. Just cross that up. The height the ball bounces. Okay, so we have our independent and our dependent. Next is our control. Let's up a little bit. Variable. So control variable is like the floor. It's the things that don't change. So variables that do not change. So our example would be the floor, gravity. Like if, oh, the height that you drop. So drop height. That would be really fair if I dropped a bowling ball from 10 feet and a golf ball from, half a foot. You can't compare the bounces. That wouldn't make sense. So you have to make sure that some things are exactly the same every single time. Otherwise, your experiment is kind of dumb. And the last one is a rule. It's actually the number one rule. So let's write that. Oh, wait, can I see this? The number one rule about variables, or four variables. Let's do four variables. And that rule is that you can only change one. See the one and the one? You can only change one variable at a time. And that's important because if I were to change the kind of ball and the height at the same time, so if I go from a tennis ball at 1 meter to a baseball at 2 meters, I can't compare those results. But if I take a tennis ball from 1 meter and a baseball from 1 meter and I bounce them, that I can compare. Which one's going to bounce higher? I can actually tell that. But if I have it one from 1 meter and the other one from 2 meters, that's not going to tell me which one bounces higher. I mean, it should be the one that's higher up, right? So anyway, this keeps us on a way that we can get results that make sense and can actually tell us something about it. So we're going to talk more about different examples, hopefully tomorrow, and set it up so that you guys can maybe do an experiment at your house on Monday. So that's what we're going to do for page 6. But this is actually all of our notes for page 7. So we are done. Make sure you copy all this down and have it all spaced out and underlined and stuff. We're going to go back and highlight it later on, but this is what you should have. So good luck.